Hi everyone, my name is Michaela and I'm the creator of M&M Knits, and today I'm going to show you how to make your very own coffee sleeve. So follow along with me. This pattern calls for weight size 6 or bulky yarn. You will need circular knitting needles so that you can knit in the round. You will also need a pair of scissors, and you will need an embroidery stitch thing. So the first step for this project is we're going to cast on. Now, in order to cast on, we're going to be doing a long-tailed cast on. So what we want to do is we're going to measure out how long of a length of string we need in order to do the cast on. So what I'm going to do, I'll show you a little trick. For this, we need to do 22 stitches. So what I'm going to do is leave a little bit of a tail, and then I'm going to wrap the yarn around my needle, and I'm going to do that 22 times. So what that does is every time I wrap it around, it gives me an idea of how much yarn I'll need for the stitches.
So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14,
15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, and then we're actually going to do one extra one because we're knitting this in the round. I need an extra stitch so that we can join them together, and I'll show you how to do that. So 23, and I'm just going to hold that spot with my fingers so that I know where to do it. And we can take this off of here. Okay, so now what we want to do here is we want to make a slip knot. So what I'm going to do is take the string, and this is the unattached piece right here, and we're going to loop that behind. So you're holding it behind this one like so, and then flip it over and pull it through so that you're creating a knot just like that, and tighten it a little bit. And then what you can do is you can pull on either of the strings to shorten the knot up. All right, then we're ready to put it on our needle and begin casting on. So I'll slip that onto the needle, give it a little tug, like so. And now we're going to do a long-tailed cast on. Now this sounds really complicated, but it's actually not. And once you get the hang of it, it's really easy and a lot of fun to do. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that this piece, your shorter piece, is actually at the front of the knot. So right now this is backwards. So I'm going to take this off, flip it around so that that piece is in the front, like that. I'm going to pull this a little bit more to the end, secure it with my index finger. And now in order to do this, what you're going to do is take these two yarns and you're going to hold them, sort of pinch them in your fingers, and then you're going to take your thumb and your index finger and sort of insert and pry them apart, just like that, so that you've got this, like you're holding it in like that. And then I sort of pull my hand out a little bit, if you can see that, so that it's away from the needle a bit. And we're going to work and wind this needle through the yarn in order to slip on. Under, over, and around, like so. Now you want to make sure that these stitches aren't super tight. They can be tight and secure, but they don't need to be pulled very, very tight. A little bit looser is sometimes better. And we're just going to keep going, like so. And we're going to do this until we have 23 stitches. All right, so I have cast on all 23 of my stitches, and now what we're going to do is we are going to prepare to join them in the round. And because I'm using round needles instead of double pointed needles, we're going to be doing the magic loop method, and I'm going to show you that now. So what you want to do is take this yarn and have it so that the strings are in your right hand like this, and we're going to push this down a little bit so that it's at the end. As you can see, this is going to be the eventual goal. So now what I'm going to do is I want to divide the stitches in half, but I want to have the extra one closest to this side. So what I'm going to do is count out 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11, which is our halfway point right there. And then I'm going to put the extra stitch, because on this side I have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11, 12. So we're going to take that 12 stitch and we're going to put it to the right. And now this is really cool. This is the magic loop. So what happens is if you divide the stitches like this, so you have half and half here, you're actually going to pull on this yarn right here. So pull on this and slide the stitches down. And what that does is allows you to work on both the stitches and still have them connected to the yarn. So I'm going to pull all these stitches down so that they're both on the needle. And you want to make sure that they don't get twisted as you do this. So what they should look like is like this. So you have all the bumps here that way, and the nice cast on edge at the bottom. So it'll look just like that. Now remember, we have the extra stitch on this back needle. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to push these a little bit closer to the edge. I'm going to take this stitch from right over. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this stitch right from over here. I'm going to pull it onto this needle. So this is the extra stitch. And then I'm going to take the first stitch on this front needle and I'm going to cast off this stitch right here. So I'm going to go over like this, go over top of it and cast it off and sort of tighten down at the bottom. And now we should have 11 on each needle. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11. Perfect. And we are now joined in the round at the bottom. So there are many ways to join in the round. That's the way I like to do it since it's nice and fast. But if you have another method, that will work as well. Okay, so now we are ready to start knitting. And the great thing about this pattern is it's just a straight knit. And when you knit in the round, you automatically do a stockinette stitch without having to knit one row, purl one row, and do anything like that. So we're only knitting stitches. And we're going to be knitting 12 rows. So I'm going to do the first couple together so that you can see. So when you do the magic loop scenario, what you're going to want to do, you have both your sets of stitches like this, half and half normally. And what you're going to do is pull out the needle of the back like that. And you're going to always be working on the stitches at the front. So these we can just leave. We're going to get to the second half. And what you can also do is you can place a stitch marker if you want in order to help you keep track. I always keep track by knowing that at the start, when I'm starting, these strings will be on the right side, but you can place a stitch marker here as well. That's probably a good idea as well. So a little trick that I learned about knitting in the round is you want to always ensure that the needle is under the yarn, so the yarn is over the needle when you're working. Otherwise the yarn will get caught up in the middle of your yarn and you're gonna have an issue untangling that. So now what I'm gonna do is just start knitting. So I'll go into this first stitch to knit, make sure I'm grabbing my yarn attached to the ball and not my cast on yarn. Gonna weave it around, knit, and pull off. And I'm gonna do all 11 stitches just like so. Now this might be a little bit tight if you cast on tighter. That's okay. You should still be able to get your needle in there. Sometimes magic loop knitting can be tight, but that's okay. Go around, pull these down. Oh, I did this way too tight. There we go. In 9, 10, and 11. Okay, we made it to the end of the row. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this and we're gonna turn it around. Just like that. So now what's happened is this yarn that we just did is at the back, and the yarn that we need to work on now is at the front. So I'm gonna tug on this on my left side so that I can get these stitches onto the needle. I'm gonna slide these on, just like that. And now this kind of looks like how we started, except we've knit one side of the stitches. Now we have to knit the other side. So I'm gonna do the same thing where I pull out my back needle. You hold on to the stitches and sort of slide it out. There we go. Just ignore that. And I'm going to knit these first stitches. I'm gonna put my needle under my yarn. So my yarn is over. And then I can start knitting. And whenever you work in between the two sets of stitches, I always pull this stitch a little bit tighter, just so that when the product is finished, there isn't you can't see a gap there. But the rest of the stitches you can just knit normally. And there we go. All right, so we have now completed our first row. We've done all 22 stitches, and now all you're gonna do is do that exact same thing until you have done 12 rows. So we've done 11 more to go. So we flip this over again, flip over the yarn, tug on this left side, and if you had a stitch marker, this is where it would be now. Pull the yarn onto your needle. Sometimes gets a little tight, and that's okay. Pull out this side, back end, and start knitting. Okay, so now we've finished all 12 rows, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna cast off. So I'm gonna do it starting with my first stitch. So wherever you have your stitch marker, or you just know which is your number 1 stitch. So I'm gonna push these all to the end, and we're just gonna do a normal cast off, but you can do whatever cast off method you would like, but I like the classic. So in order to cast off, we're gonna go in as if we are going to knit, and we're gonna do the first 2 stitches as we would, but don't make them as tight. Have a little bit less tension. It will come in handy at the end. So knit the first 2, and then we're gonna do what we did at the very beginning, and we're going to cast it off. So we cast off the back stitch first. So we're gonna go in with our needle to the back stitch and pull that over the stitch in front of it. Whoops, there we go. Just like that. And we're gonna do all the stitches exactly the same way. So let's do that now. So we're gonna go in, knit it. So we have 2 stitches over here. I'm gonna go in under this loop, and we're gonna pull it over this other stitch and cast it off. We'll do the next one, do the stitch, cast it off, cast it off, cast it off. And you're gonna keep going, and you're gonna wanna do all of the stitches. Okay, so now we're gonna do our second half of the stitches. So I'm gonna keep this one on the needle, flip it to the back, pull this one through. Now sometimes this stitch will fall off the needle, but that's okay, you can find it again. It's not going anywhere. See, there it is, it's right there. Likes to fall off, but that's okay. This is very tight. I should not have made this tight. Okay, So I'm going to pick that stitch back up. There we go. And we're just going to continue around. So knit and cast off this last stitch from our other ones. There you go. And keep going around till you get to the end. Okay, so we're here at our last stitch, and what you're going to want to do at this point is you're going to want to cut your yarn. I'm not going to cut it because I don't have very much left, but if this was still attached to the ball, you're going to want to take your scissors and snip it off. So what you're going to do is you're going to take this last loop, and what I like to do for this stitch is sort of pull out the yarn a little bit so you have a bit of give. And we can take our needles and put them to the side. We don't need them anymore. So we'll take our loop and we're going to create a knot. So we take this part and we're going to feed our cut off rest of our yarn through. Just like so. And then knot it. And you're done. So now you've cast off, you're totally finished. The last step, if you don't want to do a design on the front, is to weave in the ends. And I'll quickly show you how to do that. So to weave in the ends, you will need an embroidery needle. They come in different sizes, and you'll want one that's sort of close enough to the size that you're knitting. So what you want to do is take whichever end you want to weave in. We have to do both. And you're going to feed that through the eye of your needle, like so. So I'm going to do this end first, and what I like to do to kind of complete this circle is I'm going to go in the inside so it doesn't show, and I'm going to go through one of these little purl bumps right here. You see all of these? These purl bumps are a really easy way to hide knitting stitches when you weave in ends. So what I'm going to do is go through this one, and that way I can sort of tighten this up a little bit if I want to. And then I might go back through this one. Oop. Let me go over here, tighten that up a little bit. Back through here. Basically what you're doing, the point of weaving in the ends, is to secure it so that it's not going to come undone. I think that's good. And I can take this, cut it off, and that one's done. And then you're going to want to do the same thing to the bottom one. If you had to do one in the middle, you're going to want to do that as well. So there you have it, your very own coffee sleeve. And if you want to stick around, I will show you how to do a design on the front. But if you don't care to, you don't have to, because it's all done, you're good to go. And you might just want to block it a little bit, you don't have to, but it will sort of stretch out to the appropriate size, and you should be good to go. I'm going to quickly show you how to do a design on the front. I do have a whole video on how to do double stitching or embroidery stitching on the front of knitting, but I'll just quickly show you the basics, and then you can find the link to how to do the heart shape in the pattern. Basically what it is it's 6 stitches up, and then 1, 2, 3, well, I can't count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 rows across. So 6, 6, 6, and then 5 on the ends to do the heart shape. But I'll just quickly show you on this one. So what you want to do is take whatever yarn you want to use. I like to use the same weight of yarn, although this is slightly different material than this. And what you're going to do is take your embroidery needle and thread that through just like so. And you don't need a very long tail, but a little bit. And then what you're going to do is pick whatever spot you want to be the middle. So I'm going to take sort of the back, what I think the middle is. And you see there's a line of stitches. You want to look for the V's in the stitch. So there's one here, and I want to do the one just above it. So I'm actually going to come in right here. I don't know if you can see that. And that's where I'm going to start the pattern. So I'm going to do this one. So you go up, you go above that V to that one right there, cross, and then back down through the original spot, and then pull it through. And there you have your first double stitch. So what I would do again is I would go up 6, and then I would go over to the amount of rows I want to do a heart shape, or you can do whatever shape you want. You can sort of create your own device, whatever you want to do. I'd encourage you to kind of count out. You could even take the string and draw it a little bit to see what sort of shape you want to make. But that's how you do a double stitch embroidery. Anyway, thank you guys so much for joining me today. If you enjoyed this tutorial, please consider liking and subscribing. I really hope to do more of these in the future, and let me know in the comments below how it turned out. Anyway, thanks, have a wonderful day, and happy knitting. Bye.